Welcome to the Tim Booker book sharing channel. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our updates. Let's explore the world of books together.
Today I will talk to you about a book by American historian J.M. Smith titled Monsters of the Gévaudan, The Making of a Beast. What story does this book tell? It recounts a series of incidents involving a monster in the mid-18th century in the region of Gévaudan, France. Over the course of more than a year, this creature caused dozens of casualties. Although this so-called monster was ultimately killed by a hunting party organized by the French royalty, the Gévaudan monster became a famous folk legend in France and throughout Europe. It continued to be retold, adapted, and evolved into a prominent figure in European and American popular culture. In 2001, the renowned Italian actress Monica Bellucci starred in a fantasy film called Brotherhood of the Wolf, whose storyline was inspired by this infamous Gévaudan monster event. The author, Smith, didn't write this book merely to sensationalize or recount an astonishing monster tale. Instead, he aimed to reanalyze the formation and escalation of the Gévaudan Monster Incident from the perspective of new cultural history. He delves into the contradictions and upheavals brewing in French society on the eve of the late 18th century revolution, as well as the historical and societal significance of this event. The essence of new cultural history lies in exploring the profound through the mundane. It focuses on events not extensively covered in traditional historical texts or insignificant individuals, aiming to dissect the hidden features of a society in a specific historical period regarding socio-economic life and cultural consciousness. New cultural history doesn't confine itself to formal historical research or archival materials. It encompasses folk tales, unofficial histories, various artistic works, and even personal diaries, all utilized by researchers to fill gaps and create comprehensive, multidimensional representations. Classic examples of such studies are the interpretations of The Butcher's Tale and Calling Spirits, explored in audiobook programs. And upon its publication, Monsters of the Gévaudan was hailed as a remarkable recent contribution to new cultural history. Next, I'll roughly outline the main contents of the book in two parts. Firstly, let's journey with the author, Smith, back to mid-18th century France to understand the origins of the Gévaudan Monster Incident and how it escalated, becoming a focal point of interest not only in France but across Europe. In the second part, we'll delve into the individuals involved, ranging from local peasants and nobles to the French king and high-ranking officials, observing how they, from varying standpoints, tackled and resolved this intricate monster situation. The first part takes place in the Gévaudan region, situated in the central southern part of France, renowned for its agriculture. It's a sparsely populated area characterized by vast land, dense forests, and rugged terrain. In late June 1764, a young girl named Jean, while tending to her family's livestock, fell victim to a ferocious beast and died on the spot. From August to September, 6 more individuals met untimely deaths. Then, within less than a month's respite, the beast struck again, resulting in 4 deaths and 4 injuries. According to accounts from witnesses, the creature's modus operandi was brutal. It would bite the victim's neck, causing suffocation, then rupture the neck's arteries, drink blood, ultimately leaving the victims mutilated. Rumors swiftly spread of a man-eating monster lurking in the forests near Gévaudan, creating widespread fear among the local residents, prompting a state of constant apprehension. Lafont, a local official, issued orders that women and children working in rural areas had to be accompanied by armed men. Additionally, he mobilized hunters from the farming community, forming hunting parties in collaboration with the local garrison to capture this human-eating monster. However, Smith, the author, shifts the narrative, highlighting that incidents of wild beasts attacking people in the French countryside were not uncommon, particularly wolves. According to records, over several centuries, thousands had fallen victim to wolf attacks in France. Even in early 1764, in the city of Thiers in central southern France, a rabid wolf went on a spree, attacking 43 people, with most dying painfully due to rabies. Hence, terrifying rumors about wolves had long been a staple in French folklore. The original version of the Little Red Riding Hood tale from Grimm's fairy tales originated in France. But why did the Gévaudan incident garner such attention among the French populace and occupy a significant place in historical records? Smith analyzes that this event managed to break out of local confines and become a nationwide focal point, largely owing to media sensationalism. At that time, France had nascent national news media, emerging newspapers. Aside from major city papers, most newspapers resembled street flyers, irregularly published and featuring various sensational social news, crimes, supernatural occurrences, scandalous gossip, prevalent in urban streets, particularly in Paris since the 16th century. The author notes that more than half of France's popular street flyers were consumed by Parisians. The Gévaudan region, comparatively secluded and impoverished with rugged terrain and peculiar folk tales, perpetuated stories about caverns harboring all sorts of creatures and spirits. Among these tales, the popular belief was that the Gévaudan serial killer monster was a werewolf created by the devil. Many witnesses claimed in records that this creature, distinct from wolves, was larger, had a long tail, massive fangs, and six-toed feet, a significant feature in European folklore depicting the devil. Thus, this news in Gévaudan transformed from a typical beast attack incident into a paranormal event with inherent appeal. Smith illustrates in the book that the most influential newspaper in the Gévaudan and surrounding areas was the Avignon Express. Its editor, Maurinis, openly admitted that the lack of recent significant social events or wars in France had caused a decline in newspaper sales. However, with the appearance of the monster, while the locals felt panic, Maurinis saw a business opportunity. Throughout January 1765, the Avignon Express published at least 1 to 2 reports weekly on the monster, vividly and thrillingly narrated, seemingly as if the reporter was at the crime scene. The identity of the beast varied in these reports, sometimes it was a hyena, a lion, or even a mythical python. Soon, these reports sourced from the Avignon Express were picked up by media in the Netherlands, Belgium, and England, drawing European attention to the Gévaudan monster. Nevertheless, in hindsight, it's evident that Maurinis attracted readers by fabricating tales as interviews were insufficient, and fact-checking was rare in an era with limited knowledge and information. The second reason for the fame of the Gévaudan Monster Incident was the struggle between natural science and religious superstition. The mid-18th century saw a surge in scientific and Enlightenment thought, a confrontation between progressive scientific ideas and archaic superstitions of the past. From mathematics, chemistry, physics to astronomy, biology, various scientific domains made significant strides forward. France was the epicenter of the European Enlightenment movement. In the field of natural biological sciences, France was home to renowned figures like Buffon, the author of Natural History, and proponent of natural species classification, Lamarck, a biologist who introduced the prototype of species evolution theory, and Cuvier, a pioneer in anatomy and paleontology. Smith outlines that the Gévaudan Monster Incident instantly divided the French public into two factions, the rationalists, including scientists of the Enlightenment era and educated individuals embracing scientific concepts. These individuals held a strong belief that all unknown creatures and phenomena in nature could be explained and categorized through scientific analysis. For instance, Buffon, upon learning of similar beast attack incidents in the Lyon region in 1761, analyzed in the 9th volume of his Natural History, that the so-called monster was nothing more than a common hyena, not a mythical creature or devil. This illustrates that the most crucial task for scientists lay not just in research but also in public education, broadening people's perspectives through their studies. Lafont, the local official from Gévaudan, was from an upper-class bourgeois family, had attended university, and read Buffon's Natural History. Therefore, including Lafont, many upper-class individuals in Gévaudan felt that if it was a hyena, there was no need for undue concern, especially as winter was approaching in 1764. However, the sentiments of the common French people, who were largely illiterate, were markedly different from these cultured elites. Firstly, they preferred to believe the testimonies of their fellow villagers, with descriptions of the creature's lion-like mouth, boar-like tusks, fish-like scales on its back, imperviousness to gunfire, and blood-sucking tendencies after attacking humans. Consequently, the commoners concluded that this fearsome being was not a regular animal but a devil or monster. Secondly, France at the time was marred by natural disasters and social upheaval, further fueling the panic among the common populace, providing fertile ground for the propagation of various superstitions and rumors. From 1756 to 1763, France, in alliance with Austria, waged the 7 Years' War against England and Prussia, draining its resources and losing vast overseas colonies. The immense war expenses burdened the common people through increased taxation. Adding to their woes, unusual climate conditions led to agricultural failures, plunging the lives of the French into unimaginable hardships. Amidst these circumstances, the French populace in Gévaudan, grounded in their simple religious beliefs and common sense, arrived at a certain cognitive perception. They believed that whether it was war, abnormal climate, or monsters, these were punishments sent by God. This perspective was largely propagated by pamphlets distributed by the Church, urging people to embrace faith. Given that these pamphlets targeted the general populace, they couldn't solely preach dryly, they needed to include bizarre anecdotes to captivate readers, akin to modern-day online content platforms or self-media stirring up sensational, hard-to-distinguish true or false societal events to boost clicks and traffic. Hence, the final pages of these pamphlets often comprised stories of possession by demons or monster attacks, intended to warn people to be devout because the devil specifically targeted those with wavering faith or harboring malicious thoughts. Moreover, the local church in Gévaudan felt responsible for the monster incidents on its own turf. The farmers needed not just hunters to eliminate the monster but also guidance, reflection, and repentance. Smith mentioned in a book that a revered local bishop, Bishop Monday, issued an official announcement on behalf of the church. It claimed that the people in Gévaudan had strayed from the church's guidance in their daily lives, leading to the appearance of the monster. This was a warning and punishment, calling for widespread prayers and repentance. The church's avid interest in the monster incidents boiled down to maintaining its relevance. After all, in the 18th century, with the continuous development of science and the gradual shift of the populace's focus towards secular social and economic production and consumption, the church's influence and control over the common people were diminishing. In the second part, following Smith's narrative in the previous section, we briefly recounted the origins of the Beast of Gévaudan incident and why it quickly escalated into a hot topic not just in France but across Europe. Now, let's delve deeper into the involved parties, from local farmers, nobles to the French king and high-ranking officials, and how they each approached this social phenomenon from different standpoints and ideas. For several months, local officials and troops in Gévaudan failed to halt the monster's continued attacks. This led King Louis XV of France to take personal interest in the matter at Versailles Palace in Paris. Some might question why the king, amidst numerous state affairs, would divert attention here. Smith explains that a series of social crises and natural disasters had drastically reduced Louis XV's support. France had recently lost the 7 Years' War, leading to financial deficits, increased taxation, public dissatisfaction, and the king's reputation suffered further due to his lavish lifestyle, neglecting state affairs in favor of hunting and maintaining multiple mistresses. With these issues mounting, the king's advisors were troubled about how to quickly regain public trust. The Beast of Gévaudan incident presented an opportunity. Consequently, the king's secretaries, Saint Florentin and the finance minister Laval, announced a significant reward of 6,000 livres authorized by the king for the monster's extermination, citing the king's concern for his people. Moreover, in early February 1765, finance minister Laval directly enlisted the renowned wolf hunters of the time, the Deneuville father and son, in the king's name to eliminate the beast. Legend spoke of the Deneuvils having eradicated over 1,200 wolves in their hunting careers, elevating their arrival in Gévaudan into a source of hope for local officials and residents. However, the Deneuvils' arrival disappointed everyone. Instead of capturing the monster, they prioritized flaunting authority, maintaining an air of royal duty wherever they went. Refusing to collaborate with local officials and the military, their efforts lacked dedication and commitment. Between March and April, the elusive Beast of Gévaudan claimed 14 more lives, showing no regard for the Deneuvils. Eventually, in July of that year, the unsuccessful Deneuvils left Gévaudan. The inability to capture the beast left the entire French society disheartened and frustrated. The common people, especially Gévaudan residents, were desperate for hope. The ruling class, from the king to the nobility, also sought to act, escaping the image of powerlessness. Meanwhile, the media, already reporting on the monster attacks for a while, needed fresh stories to maintain reader attention. Two Gévaudan locals, with coverage from the Avignon Express, became public figures, a 12-year-old boy named Boule and a young farmer named Valerie. Both had encountered the monster attacking their loved ones or neighbors. They fearlessly fought back, rescuing victims and forcing the monster to flee. To reward their bravery, King Louis XV ordered the royal court to cover Boule's education expenses and supported his schooling. Later, Boule successfully entered military school, received an audience with the king, and was granted a noble title. Meanwhile, Valerie received a monetary reward from the royal court. The appearance of these two heroic figures injected a dose of confidence into the increasingly disheartened French society. Yet, the crucial focus remained on finding a competent monster hunter. After the Denevil's failure, a seasoned hunter named Antoine emerged. Carrying the prestigious title of the king's musketeer, he seemed genuinely capable. Unlike the overhyped and underperforming Denevils, Antoine was a man of action, reminiscent of the lead character in modern crime investigation TV shows. He assessed the challenge, familiarized himself with the complex terrain and adverse climate of Gévaudan upon arrival. He assembled a large team, including 14 hunters from the French court and several hunting dogs. Antoine understood the importance of relationships, fostering trust with local officials and nobles, a foundation for collaboration. Count Turin, nearby nobleman, moved by Antoine's sincerity and approachability, generously supported him with men and 20 hunting dogs. Through analysis, Antoine believed the supposed monster was likely a wild wolf. His patience and efforts bore fruit when, on September 16, a nearby monastery reported a large wolf sighting. 4 days later, in a forest near the monastery, the hunting team positioned themselves and released the hounds. Soon, a large wolf emerged from the forest. Antoine took a decisive shot, hitting the target, and, with assistance from the other hunters, ended its life. Due to the prolonged havoc caused by the beast of Gévaudan, the cautious Antoine did not rush to celebrate. He brought the body to a nearby castle, summoning villagers who had witnessed the monster to confirm. Luckily, several witnesses identified the giant wolf as the dreaded beast of Gévaudan. After undergoing preservation, the wolf's body was urgently sent to Versailles Palace outside Paris for the king and the court to examine. For the next 6 weeks, Gévaudan saw no further beast attacks, serving as compelling evidence that this giant wolf was indeed the true beast of Gévaudan. Antoine received royal rewards and was permitted to add a fallen giant wolf to his family crest, commemorating his lasting achievement. Part 2 is here. In the preceding section, following Smith's narrative, we briefly outlined the origins of the Beast of Gévaudan incident and why it became a focal point not just in France but across Europe. Now, let's continue with the involved individuals, from local farmers and nobles to the French monarchy and government high officials, and how they dealt with this social phenomenon from varying perspectives and approaches. For months, local authorities and troops in Gévaudan failed to halt the monster's attacks. King Louis XV of France, concerned, decided to intervene personally at the Versailles Palace in Paris. Some might wonder how a king, managing countless affairs, could focus on this. Smith analyzes that a series of social crises and natural disasters had lowered Louis XV's popularity. France had recently lost the 7 Years' War, leading to financial troubles, increased taxation, public dissatisfaction, and the king's questionable personal conduct, neglecting state affairs for hunting and maintaining multiple mistresses. These issues left the king's advisors worried about restoring his reputation. The Beast of Gévaudan incident presented an opportunity. Thus, the king's secretary, Saint Florentin, and finance minister, Laval, announced a substantial reward of 6,000 livres, granted by the king, for killing the Beast of Gévaudan. Furthermore, in early February 1765, finance minister Laval directly enlisted the renowned wolf hunters, the Deneville father and son, to eliminate the monster in Gévaudan on behalf of the king. According to legend, the Denevils had supposedly slain over 1,200 wolves, sparking hope among Gévaudan officials and locals. However, the Denevils' arrival disappointed everyone. Instead of capturing the monster, they cared more about flaunting authority, consistently maintaining a royal decree to hunt facade. They refused cooperation with local officials and the military, and their participation in hunting operations was lackadaisical. Between March and April, the elusive Beast of Gévaudan, uncaring of the Denevils, claimed 14 lives. Eventually, in July of that year, the unsuccessful Denevals quietly left Gévaudan. The inability to capture the beast left the entire French society disheartened and frustrated. The common people, especially Gévaudan residents, needed hope urgently. The ruling class, from the king to the nobility, sought to act, escaping the image of powerlessness. Meanwhile, the media, already reporting on the monster attacks for a while, needed fresh stories to maintain reader attention. Consequently, two Gévaudan locals, through coverage from the Avignon Express, became public figures, a 12-year-old boy named Boule and a young farmer named Valerie. Both had encountered the monster attacking their loved ones or neighbors. Despite this, both fearlessly fought back, rescuing victims and forcing the beast to flee. To reward their bravery, King Louis XV ordered the royal court to cover Boule's educational expenses and supported his schooling. Later, Boule successfully entered military school, received an audience with the king, and was granted a noble title. Meanwhile, Valerie received a monetary reward from the royal court. The appearance of these two heroic figures injected a dose of confidence into the increasingly disheartened French society. Yet, the crucial focus remained on finding a competent monster hunter. After the Denevals' failure, a seasoned hunter named Antoine emerged, bearing the honorary title of the king's musketeer. Unlike the overhyped and underperforming Denevals, Antoine was a man of action, reminiscent of the lead character in modern crime investigation TV shows. First, he acknowledged the challenge's difficulty due to Gévaudan's complex terrain and harsh climate, immediately surveying the area to familiarize himself. Secondly, he assembled a large team, including 14 hunters from the French court and several hunting dogs. Additionally, Antoine understood the importance of relationships, fostering trust with local officials and nobles as the foundation for collaboration. A nearby nobleman, Count Turin, moved by Antoine's sincerity and approachability, generously supported him with men and 20 hunting dogs. After analysis, Antoine believed the supposed monster was likely a wild wolf. His patience and effort finally paid off. On September 16, Antoine received a report from a monastery about a large wolf sighting nearby. 4 days later, the hunting team positioned themselves in a forest near the monastery, preparing to ambush, and released the hounds. Subsequently, a large wolf emerged from the forest. Antoine decisively took a shot, hitting the target, and, with the help of other hunters, ended its life. Due to the beast of Gévaudan's long history of terror, the cautious Antoine did not rush to celebrate victory. Instead, he brought the body to a nearby castle, calling upon villagers who had witnessed the monster to confirm. Fortunately, several witnesses confirmed that the giant wolf was indeed the dreaded beast of Gévaudan. Subsequently, after preservation, the giant wolf's body was urgently sent to the Versailles Palace outside Paris for the king and the court to examine. For the next 6 weeks, Gévaudan saw no further beast attacks, serving as compelling evidence that this giant wolf was indeed the true beast of Gévaudan. Antoine himself received rewards from the royal court and was permitted to add a fallen giant wolf to his family crest, commemorating his lasting achievement. Alright, the main content of Monsters of the Gévaudan is pretty much covered here. Author Smith consulted extensive historical archives and notes, vividly describing the occurrences from 1764 to 1765 in the Gévaudan region of France regarding the series of monster attacks, placing it within a larger historical and social context, delving deep into its significance. Fundamentally, humanity has continuously been plagued by various panic emotions since its inception. The root of this ongoing panic lies in the array of dangers we face: wars, diseases, famine, natural disasters, each bringing uncertainty to our lives. To alleviate panic caused by this uncertainty, humans have always sought explanations and strategies, be it through scientific progress or the development of religion and superstition, both products of this pursuit. The Beast of Gévaudan attack occurred during France's period of war, famine, and political turmoil, amplifying a local beast attack to a terrifying supernatural event, rapidly spreading across Europe. Subsequent wolf attacks in central France led people to stubbornly resurrect conspiracy theories. The Gévaudan monster was not eradicated during the 1765 hunt and continued to haunt humanity. Looking back historically at the so-called Gévaudan monster event, it can be seen as a condensed conflict of numerous contradictions within 18th-century human civilization, progress in scientific reasoning versus religious superstition and the conflict between the outdated feudal political system and Enlightenment and equality thoughts. The latter half of the 18th century saw the fermentation of nationalism in Europe, and the Gévaudan incident played a role in constructing the French national community. The development of newspapers and media facilitated information dissemination, gradually fostering societal awareness and a strong social opinion among various strata of French society, a consensus of "we are all French." The emergence of common heroes like Boule and Valery reflected Enlightenment thinkers like Rousseau's idea that all men are born equal. In a progressive rational society, one could earn respect for their noble actions and virtues, rather than being dictated by their social status for life. Simultaneously, although the elusive monster was proven to be a wild wolf, the sustained panic it sparked turned the Gévaudan monster into a legend and unique term in French and European popular culture. The wolf attacks in Gévaudan happened less than 30 years before the French Revolution, and as the revolution brewed, French progressive thinkers began using "monster" to describe the ignorant masses and the greedy, corrupt, autocratic Bourbon monarchy. Post the French Revolution, the violence and destruction brought by the revolutionary storm led the conservatives to term the revolutionary actions and its leaders, from Robespierre to Napoleon, as bloodthirsty monsters. Author Smith analyzes that between the 18th and 19th centuries, due to technological advancement and the impetus of Enlightenment thought, humanity could comprehend and explore our world at unprecedented speeds. However, within this exploration, humans gained increasing confidence in their abilities yet also discovered their insignificance in the natural world. In a sense, the fear and fondness for monsters reflect humanity's contradictory psychology of fearing and persistently seeking uncertainty. That's the essence of this book. Congratulations on finishing another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with friends. Let's combine wisdom with practice, achieve our financial goals, and create a better future together. Thank you, and goodbye.